I've listened to a number of your works, and you talk about when you get to be about the age 30, that seems to be a time when memories come back. And you're, I guess, in that sense, you're most vulnerable. And that was the time in your life when they wanted you dead. And so
Absolutely.
I'm just observing, and I know you haven't met Corey Feldman, but he was about 30 when he started coming out and saying all of these horrible things. And it just makes me think, oh my gosh, he was at that vulnerable time that you were talking about. And I know you don't know him, but and now lately, last several years, we never hear from him anymore.
And the
So
other Corey as well.
yeah, well, the other Corey was killed. I forgot
Yeah.
his last name. That was
Yeah.
2011, I think. Haynes,
Yeah.
was it? So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just sad to hear that. I prayed for him a lot.
It really is. It's something that happens. It's electrochemical changes happen in the brain. And when that happens, it opens those neuron pathways and memory, compartmentalized, repressed memory that trauma has caused and repressed so deep in the brain starts to open up, and it starts to leak memory. So that's very often when people start remembering childhood abuse or
And
whatever.
the abusers know this too. They know that age 30 is the time when they need to be extra careful about the ones they abused.
Yes, and then you get people who are obviously MK Ultra, like Disney, Britney Spears. You know, when she turned 30 and shaved her head and was just screaming out for help, and they just reprogrammed her and did that numerous times, and she just has almost broke free and then is brought back. Almost, it's so hard to see that. It's like if only someone could show her that it's within her to heal from within.
Only she could get together with you.
That part.
Well,
if
that's
she
what
would just go
yeah.
to my website, and anybody go to my website at trance-formation.com and get PTSD Time to Heal. I posted it there when mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population, because I knew people would need that information to understand their mind-brain function, because the methods that Mark taught me for healing are very easy to self-apply because they're innate to us all, and if people could just know that, if I could get the information out there far enough without being censored and held back, we'd be able to help more people. More people could help themselves with that information.
I just listened to your book.
Put that in the
I'd like to get the clip. Well, I'd like to get the clip because it's going to start to help people to understand how Mark came to understand all of this, because otherwise none of this would be happening if he didn't come to this understanding. So let me share that link really quick, or that video.
This was in charge of maintaining, not the physical maintenance. I had an actual, real, honest-to-God engineer with me at all times. But I worked in mental institutions, both state and federal. I worked in the state and federal prison systems, worked on NASA sites, and was working to just simply guard the integrity of certain file tapes and films. Those file tapes and films were on what we called behavioral modification projects. The scientists that I knew, some of them admittedly were former admitted Nazis, but they were just doing what they liked to do. And what I saw them doing in the 60s and 70s, I truly believed then, and I truly believe it now, was benevolent for society. Anything that could be used for positive can also be used for negative. A knife, for instance, is a device that allows us to use it as a tool or a weapon. Mind control, the one I was seeing, the behavioral modification programs, particularly in the prison systems and in the hospitals, the people were either incorrigible, they had extreme, we're talking the Charlie Manson types, These people had extreme social problems, put it mildly. They had behavioral problems. Some of them were cannibals. Some of them were serial killers. Some of them weren't any of those things, but they could not function in society. And what I was seeing were these people being free of those extreme mental bonds. People were recovering from the unrecoverable. People were becoming functional when they absolutely were non-functional. So myself and the scientists that I was rubbing elbows with, we all believed that this was one of the greatest opportunities for emptying out our prisons, for emptying out our mental institutions by the year 2000. We literally were working towards that goal.
All right. So what about that? I mean, obviously people tend to throw all of the negative into, action first. But his research and what he believed he was working with was really to help people to recover from, violent behaviors and that. So, and he didn't see the difference between behavior modification and mind control. Your thoughts on that?
From my point of view, it's understanding the mind-brain function. Mark was studying that and working at the War College Psychological Warfare Division, and at the same time, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino was there, and they were enemies right from the get-go.
Dr. Aquino, the high priest of the Church of Set.
Temple of Set.
Temple of Set, also a colonel, interestingly enough, in the United States Army. What is it, this Satanism?
I think that there is some confusion tonight because this same term means something different to Satanists than it does to Christians in the United States. By our own standards, the people who you've shown in these film clips would not be Satanists, either present or in the past. Rather, they would be the failures of a conventional religion.
I appreciate your opinion. What is it, sir, then? What is Satanism?
Well, originally the Church of Satan, when it was founded, was composed not of people with a hatred for Christianity, but of people who, by and large, were agnostics and atheists, because they felt that the institutions which had arisen around Christianity had failed in their moral commitment. So Satanism itself became an emphasis on rational self-interest and on taking responsibility for your own intellectual and ethical decisions.
Rational self-interest, you call it?
Yes.
And of course, Michael Aquino was my primary MK Ultra mind control programmer. And he used mind control in the military, and the trauma base was satanic in nature. So the formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, or the world. And it was found through the Hitler-Himmler research that trauma is the basis of it. There's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while their brain is still forming. Equally as horrific on the human mind is satanic ritual abuse, because the blood traumas are so absolutely horrific. So that's what Michael Aquino was working on, and Mark was livid because he was working on, as he was even saying there, preserving the sanctity of free thought, reclaiming free thought, free will, soul expression, because it's such an important aspect of things. But there's good and bad in everything. And when we look at that and consider that aspect of things, we need to evaluate for ourselves, okay, how are things really being used and what is being done? So, yeah, Mark always would say too, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And when we consider that, wow, how ridiculous is war then? Ultimately, there's a lack of communication that's going on. And if we would all just, talk with each other and learn from differences rather than fight over differences, we would all stand to win.
Hey, if you like these kind of conversations and you'd like to see more, click like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're at the computer and you'd like to hear the whole podcast, click right here.